Hey, folks. Good Sunday morning to you. A little rainy. I've got another storm coming in. So instead of wandering around the countryside in Pennsylvania, we're going to do this from indoors today. Up front, while we're waiting for folks to float in, I'll give you a heads up. I am going to be, those of you that know me know that I live up north of Scranton in northeast Pennsylvania, not too far from the New York line, but I will be in Beaver County, all the way on the other side of the state tomorrow, Monday, April 24th, speaking at an event sponsored by Right to Liberty, one of the members of the Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition, who've invited me to come out there. Thank you very much for the invitation. And so Monday, April 24th, starts at 6:30 p.m. It is at the Rochester Hotel in Rochester, Pennsylvania, naturally enough. 218 West Washington Street, Rochester, Pennsylvania. It says the entrance is on the Adams Street side. I don't know what that means, but I guess I'll figure it out when I get there. So, Right to Liberty tomorrow, April 24th, 6:30 p.m., Rochester Hotel, Rochester, Pennsylvania. Look forward to being back over in Western Pennsylvania. That's actually where my dad's side of the family is from, Western Pennsylvania, and my beautiful wife is from Fayette County. So always good to be back in the neighborhood. Also, there will be another speaker, Tony G. from Team Red, which is also another component of the statewide coalition patriot groups. And we'll be talking, but also giving you an opportunity to network and meet people. This is not just a sort of show up, listen to folks, and then go home kind of event. That's not the idea with any of these events, actually. The whole point is come on out, acquire some information, make some contacts, and then what really matters is what you do when you leave, right? It's not go home and get back on the couch. It's go home and start making a difference. It's the only way we're going to make the change that any of us want. So I wanted to talk to you guys briefly today. Like with a lot of things these days, I guess it seems that the way most of the so-called media, legacy media anyway, portrays things, and what is real. I mean, there are two dramatically different things. It's like we have one just fantasy world that's spun out by big network news organizations, and then we have what's really going on. And so, if you look at the world through this lens of all these media outlets that support Joe Biden and so forth, there's some sort of massive, well-funded, incredibly efficient conservative movement in the country. They won't use the term conservative. They'll use something more pejorative, right? Deplorable, Nazi, fascist, whatever crazy term they can come up with. Versus, right, this giant machine versus the poor, oppressed, fill in the blank, whoever's being described as oppressed today. And in fact, I think most of you that are involved in the patriot movement and involved in politics on the conservative side, if you will, understand that that's not what's happening at all. I mean, look at Pennsylvania, and what you see is this constellation of conservative grassroots organizations, all these patriot groups, and it's all volunteers. And it's moms, and it's retired people, and it's whoever, and they're all doing this. They're all organizing and fighting because they believe in the cause, and they're all doing it for free, and they're all floating their own money all the time, and everything is being done on a shoestring. It's just the American people, these grassroots folks, fighting against what is actually a giant, incredibly well-funded machine on the other side of this thing. And it seems like every day as I'm researching things and looking at things, I'm reminded of how real that is. But just only a few days ago, was communicating with my good friend Doug McClinko, commissioner from up in Bradford County, who many of you know, who's, if there's a guy who's the point man for the whole patriot movement, particularly on election integrity, it's Doug McClinko. And Doug brings to my attention the existence of this organization called Informing Democracy. So one of the things you got to understand, right, is that anytime you see a group that's attacking democracy and attacking average citizens and attacking the constitutional republic, always the name associated with it is going to be suggest that there's something completely different, right? I mean, saving the country, standing for freedom, turns out that that's the exact opposite of what they are. So Informing Democracy came to our attention recently because they just put out a report, report in air quotes because it's a propaganda piece. And basically the point of this report is to identify folks in a whole bunch of battleground states, and Pennsylvania figures very, very, very prominently in this report. And it identifies all in this publication, all these individuals that, according to Informing Democracy, are fighting to destroy the electoral system. These are the folks who are rigging the system, who don't want free elections, who are trying to oppress everybody in the country. Now, Informing Democracy, it turns out, is a creation, whole cloth, a creation of the Democratic Party establishment, of all of the entities that were responsible for completely warping and distorting our electoral system, the ones that are behind, mail-in voting and stripping out voter ID requirements, all of these entities that have looked to really pervert the electoral system to allow for massive fraud and cheating. That's Informing Democracy is a creation of those groups. And therefore, everyone that they are attacking, and they name them in the publication, everyone they're attacking is someone that they perceive as fighting back against that. So if in their eyes you have stood up and actually stood up for electoral integrity, you have stood up to challenge the constitutionality of Act 77 in Pennsylvania, you've raised any legitimate questions about where we are with the integrity of the system right now, then Informing Democracy is attacking you, because their goal is to continue to have a system which can be distorted, which can be played with, which can be perverted, with the ultimate goal, obviously, of guaranteeing that the Democratic Party never loses another election. Okay, so this publication is Informing Democracy's hit list of people who are daring to fight back against this Democratic Party agenda. And when you take a look at this organization, it's just a perfect little textbook case of how these entities exist. Up here, Informing Democracy appeared all of like 6 months ago, just out of the ether, all of a sudden stands up. And Informing Democracy basically boils down to one individual. I mean, if you go online, you can find their website. You dig into that, they've got a Twitter account, they've got all the usual stuff. But basically, this boils down to one person, and her name is Jenna Lowenstein. Okay, so who's Jenna Lowenstein? So Jenna Lowenstein lives in Brooklyn, New York. And Jenna Lowenstein is a longtime Democratic Party operative, and basically a campaign strategist. In other words, her entire professional career has been working full-time for the Democratic Party, usually for a series of campaigns like campaigns for particular individuals, but also in some cases working for big nonprofit entities that are all associated with the Democratic Party. There's this whole universe of these groups out there that are funded, incredibly well funded, and all support causes of the Democratic Party. So it's not just the party, it's the party in this universe of groups associated with it that push all these Democratic Party agendas. So Jenna Lowenstein has worked for a whole host of really prominent Democratic Party candidates, including Hillary Clinton. She was the person in her campaign running all of her digital media, so all of her social media, all her online stuff. I think everybody listening to this understands that these days that's a huge part of a campaign. So whatever you think of Hillary, they had a lot of money and they had a huge campaign. And the fact that Jenna Lowenstein was running that for her entire nationwide campaign give you an idea of her prominence. Again, you can go online and find Jenna Lowenstein's background and read the bio as well as I can give it to you, but you can just see a whole series of causes in air quotes, that she's been associated with. She's a Democratic Party hack. She's a Democratic Party operative. And this is her profession. Like, she makes really good money doing this. So that'll give you an idea how focused this Democratic Party apparatus is on fighting the backlash. In other words, all of the groups that have popped up since 2020, like everybody in the Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition, you have gotten their attention to the point where they have stood up an entity run by this lady who's a kind of a big deal in their circles, and God knows how much money they put into it. And they are out targeting by name the individuals who are daring to fight back against their efforts to delay the process. Now, I'm belaboring all this because I think it is a perfect little textbook example of what's really happening in this fight, folks. You've got moms and retired folks and volunteers funding things out of their own pockets, fighting to preserve the integrity of the electoral system. And on the other side of this, you don't have grassroots activists, no matter what they tell you. They don't have community organizers. What you've got are boatloads of money and an incredibly well-organized, well-funded effort to basically fight the people of the United States. I mean, in the case of Pennsylvania, you got average Pennsylvanians saying, hey, I want to be able to know that the results of the election were real, that whoever won, that's real, and I can actually depend on that. And what you're fighting against is a giant, incredibly well-organized, well-funded machine. Now, I say all that to sober you so you understand what you're fighting, but also when you got them worried enough that they go out and hire Jenna Lowenstein and try to sick her on the Patriot movement in Pennsylvania, that ought to give you a little bit of a cause for celebration, because you definitely got them worried. And I just close with this, as usual. Where is the Republican Party in this? We got a Democratic Party machine, and we got an ocean of grassroots activists standing up for their country. And where is the entire Republican Party established? I'll talk to you guys again soon.